Hello everyone. Today in this video I am going to tell you the details of motor system examination. I have already explained the higher mental function, cranial nerve examination and the signs of meningeal irritation in my previous video on CNS examination. In motor system we have to examine the patient for the posture, bulk, tone, power, deep tendon reflex, superficial reflex, then gait, then coordination. Then we have to check any abnormal movement is there or not. And to remember all these points, there is a trick: ABCD, PG, student training. So A for any abnormal movement, B for bulk, C for coordination, D for deep tendon reflex, and P, there are two P, posture and the power, and the G for gait, and S for student, superficial reflex, and the T of the training for the tone. First, in the motor system examination, we have to observe the posture of the patient. Is it the normal posture or any abnormal position because of the disease is there? Example, if the child is having decerebrate posture, in which the child will have the extension of all four limbs and internal rotation at the joints will be there. It is seen when the lesion is below the red nucleus or intercolliculus, and if the child is having the lesion above the red nucleus, it will lead to the decorticate posture, in which child will have the flexion of upper limb and the extension of lower limb. Another example of abnormal posture is opisthotonus, in which there is a spastic contraction of the extensor muscles of the neck, trunk and lower extremities occur, and child will have the severe backward arcing start from the neck to the heel, and this can be seen when the child is having the extrapyramidal lesion, or if the child is having the cerebral palsy or tetanus, or in the strychnine poisoning, or sometime it can be seen in drowning victims also. Another example of abnormal posture is pith frog position, in which both paralyzed lower limb will be laid in the frog-like position, in which abduction and slight flexion at the hip joint and slight flexion at the knee joints occur. It is seen in the scurvy, polio and spinal muscular atrophy. Second part in the motor system examination is to observe the bulk of the muscle. So after observing the posture of the patient, we have to observe all the muscle groups of the body of the neck, trunk, upper and lower limbs. So if you find any asymmetry, example any atrophy or hypertrophy is there, then we have to mention. If atrophy is there, then we have to observe, is it the proximal muscle group involvement or the distal muscle group involvement, and we have to measure the muscle bulk by measuring the circumference of both the limbs at identical points in relation to bony landmarks. So in this video you can see I am measuring the muscle bulk in lower limb 3 finger below the tibial tuberosity, and in upper limb 3 finger below the acromion process. So against the identical bony landmark we have to compare the muscle bulk in both the limbs to check is there any asymmetry is present or not. So whenever there is a decreased muscle bulk, we label as a atrophy, and if the child is having severe muscle atrophy due to the lesion in anterior horn cell or nerve root or peripheral nerve, we label as a neurogenic atrophy. And in muscle disease, child will have the mild to moderate atrophy of the involved muscle. We label as a disuse atrophy whenever child is having the atrophy of the muscle because of the immobilization of the limb. Example seen after the fracture, whenever limb is in the cast for few months, child will have the mild to moderate atrophy, and it will recover whenever child will resume the work. Congenital hemiatrophy, complete half of the body muscle will be atrophied. In Duchenne muscular dystrophy, child will have the pseudo hypertrophy of the calf muscle. Even the pseudo hypertrophy of the tongue, forearm and the deltoid muscle can also occur in the Duchenne muscular dystrophy. After the posture and the bulk of the muscle, we have to assess the tone of the muscle. So for the assessment of the tone, we have to palpate the muscle, then we have to assess the tone by passive movement at the joints, then we have to check the tone by shaking the limb, known as flappability test. So by palpation, we have to feel the muscle. If it is firm feeling, that means normal tone. If it is flabby or soft, that means hypotonia. If it is stiff or hard, that means hypertonia. Then by passive movement, again we have to differentiate, is it the normal, increase or decreased tone. Whenever tone is increased, hypertonia, again we have to differentiate, this hypertonia is because of spasticity, pyramidal tract lesion, or rigidity due to extra pyramidal tract lesion. So in spasticity, you will find that the resistance to the passive movement will be most marked in the beginning, then it will decrease suddenly. It is clasp knife type of spasticity, which is speed dependent. So when we will increase the speed, resistance will be more, and when we will decrease the speed, resistance will be feel less. If the resistance to the passive movement is increased throughout the movement, then we label as a rigidity. It is not speed dependent. It is of two type, cogwheel and lead pipe type. It is seen in the extrapyramidal tract lesion, in which you will find that throughout the passive movement, resistance will be feel. In this video, you can see child is having the hypotonia, decreased tone because of GBS. Now we have to assess the tone by the flappability test, in which we have to shake the limb and we have to see the movement of the limb at distal joint, and these movements at the distal joint will be increased in hypotonia and decreased in the hypertonia. In infants, tone should be assessed by the Emil-Tyson method, in which we have to measure the some angles, adductor angle, popliteal, dorsiflexion and scarf sign. Then we have to compare it with the normal age range. For all these angle assessment, infant should be in supine position, head should be in midline and should be awake, alert, should not cry. In this method, first we have to assess the adductor angle. So here you can see, for this, infant's leg should be extended and should be hold the knee and thigh of the infant by placing the thumb or index finger over the thigh. Then we have to abduct both the legs maximally as possible. Then we have to measure the angle between both the thighs. Its normal range is 40 to 80 degree in less than 3 months, 70 to 110 degree in 4 to 6 months, and 110 to 140 degree in 7 to 9 months age, and 140 to 160 degree in 10 to 12 months age group. If adductor angle is less than expected normal range, that means infant is having the hypertonia. If it is more than expected normal range, means infant is having the hypotonia. For adductor angle, we have to measure the popliteal angle. In this, we have to flex the hip completely by holding against the abdomen, and then we have to extend the knee joint by gentle pressure with our index finger over the heel, and then we have to measure the popliteal angle between the thigh and the calf of the limb. Normal range is 80 to 100 degree in less than 3 months, 90 to 120 degree in 4 to 6 months, 110 to 160 in 7 to 9 months, and 150 to 170 degree in 10 to 12 months age group. If popliteal angle is less than expected normal range, that means hypertonia. If it is more than expected normal range, means hypotonia. And if you find the difference between both the leg is more than 10 to 20 degree, it indicates significant asymmetry between the both legs. After popliteal angle, we have to measure the dorsiflexion angle. In this, we have to hold the lower limb, and then we have to place our finger or thumb over the sole, and then we have to gently dorsiflex the foot as maximum as possible. Then we have to measure the angle between the dorsum of foot and the leg. Normally it is 60 to 70 degree in infants. Then we have to perform the scarf sign. For assessment of the scarf sign, first we have to flex the elbow by holding the hand. Then we have to pull it across the chest as far as possible. Then we have to see the position of elbow in relation to mid-sternal line and axillary line. Normally in less than 3 months age, elbow does not cross the midline, while in 4 to 6 month age, it crosses the midline. Then we have to also perform the traction response to assess the tone in infants. In this, we have to hold the baby's shoulder by both the hands, and then we have to elevate the baby from bed. If complete head leg is present, it means hypotonic infant is. Then we have to hold the baby in vertical suspension. In this, we have to hold the baby vertically by both the hands in axilla. Then we have to elevate the baby. Hypotonic infant will sleep, while seizuring of lower limb will occur whenever there is a hypertonic child. So all these are for the assessment of the tone in children and in infants. In next video, I am going to tell you the details of other part of the motor system examination. Thank you so much.